Pretty interesting. It took them 5 years to go from this precept concept into the Polestar 5, and honestly, there's really not a lot of differences. I'm not sure what exactly took 5 years to figure out. Probably some regulations and stuff. But on the left side here, we do have the Polestar precept concept from 5 years ago, and here we have the production version of this, the Polestar 5. I mean, it does look good. I think Volvo has always been kind of boxy, and Polestar being, I see Polestar basically as the Volvo EV brand. So having these boxy shapes that we have for the Polestar 5, it makes sense. It makes sense to have more of a product design approach, but we still have some fluidity in the side view. Some very static features that we're going to have a look at in a minute here as well. The Polestar 5 now been unveiled as a super high performance EV sedan. So before we dissect this design in Photoshop and also of course have a look at this interior right here, let's jump in and have a look at what this vehicle is all about. We have an article from Car Scoops here talking about the spec and tech. It's pretty amazing. Power figures here, and the price is also pretty amazing, I have to say that. So Polestar's stunning four-door coupe takes aim at the Porsche Taycan. I'm going to compare it to the Porsche Taycan as well in Photoshop. Let you know which one I prefer. You have slick styling with a high-performance powertrain offering up to 872 horsepower. It's not, I mean, if you think back 6 or 7 years ago, or before this EV run started, 872 horsepower in a vehicle was just super hyper. It was almost above hypercar numbers. Now it's in a Polestar EV, and we see these numbers in a lot of EVs these days. A performance-based EV has up to 872 horsepower, 749 pound-feet of torque. Currently available to order in the UK, starting at 89,500 pounds, which I do believe is around $120,000. Is that right? Let me see. So yeah, it's right about $122,000, which seems like a lot of money, specifically when you look at the interior. I mean, what exactly is it that you're paying for in these EVs? Because you don't have the transmission, you don't have an engine that requires a lot of moving parts. It's essentially, a battery pack. You got dual motors, I assume. You have an interior that is extremely minimalist, and this goes for every EV, and still the pricing is $120,000. It's not like you're paying for a lot of stuff. You're just paying for, a battery pack, a couple of electric motors, and a shell. I'm not really sure where these prices are coming from. So the precept concept over 5 years ago, and it's finally morphed into the production vehicle. A four-door performance Grand Tourer features dual blade headlights with pixel LED technology, pretty much exactly like we saw in the precepts. You got frameless windows. Buyers will also find 20 to 22-inch wheels, as well as a rakish windscreen that flows into a long sloping roof. The roofline looks great. Here we can see the interior as well, just how minimalist everything is. We do have a small little screen right behind the steering wheel. We have this vertically positioned tablet on the dash. They don't really have a straight front picture of the interior, which I'm not sure why they didn't put that in. Steering wheel looks pretty good. I'm not sure of these stuff like this, $120,000. I don't want to have gloss tactile, touch buttons like this on the steering wheel. I want to have some more craftsmanship is all I'm looking for interiors. The seat looks great as well. Not sure what this is. More gloss black. Probably just gloss black plastic here. So the interior is a minimalist, of course, and high-tech, as owners will find a 9-inch digital instrument cluster, 9.5-inch head-up display, and a 14.5-inch infotainment screen. Pretty standard stuff these days. The front seats were designed in collaboration with Recaro and I thought Recaro was almost going out of business. I'm glad to see that they did not. And they can be wrapped in Microtech or bridge of Weir Napa leather upholstery. They also offer heating, ventilation, and massaging functions. You wouldn't expect anything else if you're paying $120,000. Maybe that's where the pricing came in. Have some very advanced massaging functions that they need to hire 20 engineers from. I don't know. The rear center armrest folds down to reveal controls for the 4-zone climate control system, as well as the heated, ventilated, massaging seats. The seats also recline, so great to see that. So massive panoramic glass roof that measures over 6 feet long. You do not want to get a crack in this glass roof, because if you do, it's probably going to be another $120,000 just to replace that. So looking at the photos here, it looks pretty dynamic from a side view, very static from the rear end. Not sure why these images are loading in a weird position here. I think the hood has an interesting curvature to it that goes straight and then dips down in this area. So it's not a continuous curve. We're gonna have more look more on that in Photoshop in a minute. But overall, I mean, the side view is definitely my favorite view for this. I think it looks beautiful. It does not have the EV proportions. It looks like it could house an actual engine under the hood. So Brembo braking system, as well as, listen to this. This is why I feel cars are becoming more and more literally cell phones on wheel. You plug them in to charge them. You have all of these sensors and cameras. You have 11 exterior cameras, 12 ultrasonic sensors, 1 mid-range radar. So, I mean, how many things do you need to move a vehicle from point A to point B? It's getting a little ridiculous, and this is obviously for autonomous driving and stuff like that. But I'm just gonna stick with older cars moving forward, just analog stuff. So you get a 112 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery pack, which feeds a dual-motor all-wheel drive system. And this enables the car to accelerate from 0 to 62 miles per hour, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 3.9 seconds. And this is where I come back to the new Porsche 911 Turbo S that I made a video on a couple of days ago. The Turbo S 701, something like that, 700 something, low number of 700 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 2.4 seconds. That is the engineering of how Porsche manages to plant their power so well and just launch the Porsches. But that is, of course, for the base model here. Top speed 155 miles per hour. Range is great. If it's actually the real world range, it's 416 miles. You got DC fast charging capability of 350 kilowatts. Pretty decent, 10 to 80% in 22 minutes. You also get the performance variant, and I guess this is the one you want. I don't know. I mean, is 738 horsepower not enough for you? You can bump it up to 872. Upgraded dual motors, all-wheel drive as well. 0 to 60, still not as fast, even though it has 160, 170 more horsepower than the Turbo S, and it's an EV. Still does 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds. Which is, of course, not bad. I mean, it's not bad, but it just always makes me appreciate and respect Porsche so much more, how they use their power and just plant it. So this range dropped to 351 miles. You got sporty suspension with adaptive dampers, gloss black accents, as well as the Swedish gold brake caliper, seat belts, and valve caps. I always love those small details. You can see it right here, for example, the gold brake caliper right there, looking good. So here you have the European prices: 120,000 euros for the entry level, 142,900 for the performance variant. I mean, it is, the prices are just going crazy right now. So pricing is available for Canada and the United States, will be announced at a later date. Here we have some detailed photos of this here. You can see the golden caliper, the valve cap that is golden as well. Small little details like that. It looks good. It looks great to have the silver, this dark gunmetal finish on the exterior, and then these small little gold accents, the seat belts, of course, also being silver. So with that said, let's jump into Photoshop here and have a look at this design, because I want to show you this and compare it to the Precept from 5 years ago. And again, I just wonder what took them so long to put this into production. It was delayed by, I do believe, a year or so. We're changing the front end, a pretty significant change here. One detail that I really liked about the Precept is this Ferrari Pista style integrated front wing. You can see that it has an open slot right here, and then you have this radar, this sensor pad or area where all the sensors are located right here, looking like an F-117 fighter jet with those metal plates on it. But I always like these lines right here going down. And then you can see we have a wing in the front end. So this air flows in here, right here, and then shoots up onto the hood like this, creating an internal wing, which looks very, very cool. And I also like the chiseledness that we have going on here, even though to me Polestar and Volvo right now as well, they're becoming more and more product designy to me. But as I said, Volvo has always been pretty boxy, so it's not something that they're, it's not a departure from their original design DNA. I still think it suits the vehicle to have this more product design feel, which is not something I say a lot about, about a lot of cars. Now looking at the changes here, we do have new headlights. These were very, very thin. We don't have any headlight unit underneath the lower section right here. But you can see that they implemented that right here. So this is the main headlight unit, I do believe, sitting underneath the lower graphics. But we still have the separation of the bodywork right here. And of course, the Thor's hammer coming back here. Again, I'm always wondering, what is Volvo's EVs? What is their position when they have Polestar? Now Volvo is turning into more and more of an EV company. So what is going to be the difference between Volvo EVs and Polestar? Because they basically look the same. The lower section, we still have the radar position right here in the camera and all of that integrated in this between these two lines. This area right here is where all the sensors sit. We have an intake in the lower section that's been redesigned a little bit from the concept. I think it got a little bigger, to be honest. Looks pretty decent. The front fascia, I mean, it's clearly recognizable as a Polestar. There's no confusion about what car this is. And it looks very, very chiseled, very product designing. And look at the side view. This is where I don't think they changed up really a lot. They changed up the side mirrors. Side mirrors here in the States, unfortunately, we can't have cameras as side mirrors. I mean, it's not really unfortunate. I kind of like big side mirrors because to me, side mirrors are arms for the vehicle. Without side mirrors, it looks like the car is missing something. But looking at the proportions here, this is the line I wanted to talk about. This curvature right here, how it goes from straight all across the greenhouse and then dips in this area pretty abruptly into the front end graphics. But the overall proportions, if we draw out these proportions, it does not have this blob EV look, which is exactly what I'm looking for in EVs. I don't want them to. The blob era is sort of played out now. Mercedes showed everybody that it's not going to work. People don't like that shape, so that is what they switched up here. The cool thing about this, though, if you look at the wheel design, I honestly think that the wheels on the production car looks better than the concept, and that very, very rarely happens. But these wheels, I think they look great because they have some black in it, which is fine. But we have these four-spoke design in this case being silver, polished on the surface. So we have this bright work on the faces of the spokes, looking very, very cool. Now, if we draw a center line right here, this is the graphic that I would like to see some more dynamic movement in. Look at this lower half graphics right here. It is essentially completely 100% symmetrical, and this creates a very, very static look for this area down here. I would like to see it have some sort of direction to it, but that's not what we get. And this is what I'm saying when I say that this looks more like a product design to me than a car design. But they still retain some of the car design, automotive design aspect to it. For example, this shoulder line looks beautiful. How it goes down and creates this very, very sharp edge right there. And I kind of like the hood design as well. Even though we do have this very abrupt down curve starting from this area right here. It goes straight and then dips down as we talked about in the concept. The greenhouse looks great. If we draw out the A-pillar here, the curvature going straight from the back into the A-pillar and just pull this all the way down, you can see that it pretty much connects to the center point of the front end axle, and that is what we want to see in proportions for internal combustion engines, and that is the reason why I think this actually looks like it could be an internal combustion engine. Now look at the rear end. This is, I do believe this changed up some things here from the concept to the production version, and again, I honestly think that the concept looks a little better. Maybe it's the finish, the white, the gloss white doesn't really reflect the surfaces as well as the matte one. But you can see the shoulder line here, very thick muscle. We have this nice LED in the rear end, and we also have these pillars going down and creating these dips. These dips right here is a beautiful little touch, how it sits inside of this bay. You can see it more clearly here. I love these chamfers, these ones right here. This looks beautiful. and creates a very, very cool futuristic chisel looking design for the Polestar. This is the over 6 feet long glass panel that you have in the roof. Again, you do not want this to break because that is going to be very, very expensive. The rear end overall has, again, a very, very static looking static feel to it because everything is so sharp. There's no curvatures in the rear. But it suits, overall, the entire package of the Polestar 5 comes together pretty nicely because they don't deviate from this design language anywhere around this vehicle. They stick with it. Looking at it from a straight rear view, here you can see some changes to the glass panel up here. We did get this. I do believe this is a dual camera and sensors up there. And here you can see these dips going down and how this creates a very muscular stance because look at how the fenders goes out and then straight down. I love when the tire sits right in line with the end point of the bodywork. It doesn't sit in here like they used to do in a lot of cars just 5 or 6 years ago. Now we don't need spacers anymore because this looks pretty planted to me. We have a nice looking diffuser in the lower section, nothing too crazy, but here we do get some automotive design. Thankfully, we do have some curvatures down there as well. And of course, the taillight unit, very, very static with just, you know, these very extremely sharp corners. Would be cool to see maybe a little bit of radiuses to these areas right here to just create some, remove a little bit of this extreme sharpness that we have. Last but not least, I want to show you the interiors. We don't really have a good picture of the interior, but we talked about this before and what I think about these interiors. Really no changes that I can see clearly from the Precept concept. This was probably an interior that they just said, the concept is done. The interior looks great. We're not going to change it at all for production. And that looks to be exactly what happened here. 14.5-inch infotainment screen. And we do have the gauge cluster and also a head-up display right in front of the driver. Pretty, I mean, it's not the worst interior I've seen. It's just a very boring interior. There's really nothing to, you know, appreciate in the interior because everything is so simple and minimalist. Now, the thing is this better, in my opinion, than the Porsche Taycan? And the answer to that is going to be no. I would 100% go with the Porsche Taycan because here we do have this automotive design that I'm looking for with fluid lines, and this looks like a proper EV to me. No EV proportions, beautiful proportions overall, and Porsche DNA intact, and of course the interior just feels so much better than the Polestar. These are the type of interiors that I definitely want to see in EVs moving forward.